right. All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool. And Jonathan, today we've got a special guest from way across the other side of the world. Well, not all the way the other side of the world, I guess, like a quarter of the way around the globe.
Yeah.
So
Spain, right?
We got an international show going on here today. So it's Friday night, and of all the ways he could have chose to spend Friday night, he chose it to spend with us.
That's right.
So we're
very honored.
that.
Yes.
And he's an author. We don't really have a bio because he's like, I just tell people about my newsletter and I write email copy and stuff and write books and things like that. So we're going to be talking about his book.
Hold it up, Sean. And the title.
It's got a super catchy title.
Yeah, I love the title.
The 10 Commandments of Con Men, Pickup Artists, Magicians, Door-to-Door Salesmen, Hypnotists, Copywriters, Professional Negotiators, Political Propagandists, Stand-up Comedians, and Oscar-Winning Screenwriters.
Wow. You should be an auctioneer. I'm
going to be on one of those commercials where they read the pharmaceutical commercials.
The fine print at the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be on that. Yeah. So that's my next career. So, but yeah, why don't we go ahead?
This is a great example though, Sean. If you're going to write a book, be interesting. Have an interesting title. Don't just
screw niching. Just put it all in there, man.
Yeah. Put it all, put a black cover, just put it all in white font.
I mean, this is like, he's an implementer. I can tell that.
Absolutely.
Right? He didn't worry about cover design.
Nope.
Formatting. No, he just said, we're putting this out. It's going to go out. And here it is. Now he's on a podcast, one of the world's most famous persuasion podcasts
in the world.
Yeah.
We're ranked number one.
We're number one among, we're number one podcast in the world that talks about persuasion while drinking beer. Pretty sure.
We're so niche that you cannot beat us out of that category.
So why don't we welcome him on? I'm going to make you say his name because.
Okay. All right. So we have John Bejakovic. I think Bejakovic. Yeah. I think that's it.
Close.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yep. Yeah. See, now I forgot how you said it. Bejakovic. There we go.
Bejakovic.
All right. Let's welcome him to the show.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
For the applause. Hi guys.
Look at that.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry, we butchered your last name. What is? Remind us again.
It's Bejakovic, but it's been haunting me my whole life, so it's quite all right.
Yeah, wait, if you moved over here, you'd really be a problem.
That's right.
Is
it a weird name in Spain as well? Like just.
I mean, I'm from Croatia originally. I lived in the U.S. and in the U.S. I definitely got.
Yeah.
My story is always whenever I would be like at the doctor's office and the nurse would come out and she's looking at the clipboard, and if she's ever like, you can see just.
The terror,
complete terror in her face. That's me. I knew for sure that was me.
Yeah.
What part of Spain are you in currently?
I'm in Barcelona.
Beautiful area. Love it.
Yeah, it's very nice.
I lived in Europe for a couple of years in the military, and that was my all-time favorite place to visit was Barcelona.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the weather's good. The city's pretty. It's right on the sea. It's got a lot.
Now, I learned something this week though, because I was talking to someone who was from Madrid, and they said Madrid and Barcelona don't get along very well. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. It's like
it's like the North and the South, right?
Like Boston and New York. If you got like a baseball rivalry, here they have a football rivalry, and I mean it goes beyond that, but it's like a different vibe to Madrid.
Yeah.
And Barcelona is more like a beach town, more like laid back.
Yes. Yeah.
And also they're a different kind of breed of Spanish. And then Madrid is more posh, more inland, and people tend to like either one or the other and not both. And so there's rivalry.
Yeah.
Wow.
That makes sense. Makes a lot
Hatfields and McCoys there in Spain. You never know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I guess we're not the only ones arguing with ourselves around here, so that's good to know.
Absolutely.
That's good to know. So, all right, well, John, we'll be talking about your book and stuff on the show, and just talking shop in here. But before we get into that, you got a beverage that you're having. Tell us about what you're having, and is that one of your go-tos? Is that a?
It's Estrella. It's a local beer. It's very popular. I think if you're likely to see any Spanish beer abroad, it's going to be this. So it's
Okay.
a very common beer, and I think it's actually
Which one is that? Is that the what is it called?
It's called Estrella, so star, and
Okay.
then the brewery is called Dam. So,
Dom, yes. Yeah. I think I've
Estrella.
seen that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had that
Very
beer
Yeah,
good.
before.
Is that a lager or is it a?
Yeah, I guess so. It's just a very typical local light beer. So I'm guessing a
Okay.
lager.
Okay. Very cool.
What are you guys having?
Jonathan, what are you having?
I'm showing it right now. It's that time of year, folks.
Oh no. But it is
I have
October.
a pumpkin from Kentucky Brewing. Or Lexington Brewing. I have a pumpkin barrel ale. It's a barrel ale brewed with Kentucky sourced pumpkin, rich spice with cinnamon, nutmeg, and allspice. So I think I probably had this one before. This is one of those seasonals that comes out around early fall. So
Yeah.
And John, have you ever had a bourbon barrel of any sort?
A bourbon barrel.
Bourbon
you mean
barrel ale or a porter
No,
or stout or whatever?
No, I never have.
Never had. Okay.
No.
All
Well,
right.
when you come here, you got to have one.
Well, I'm gonna one up you. I'm gonna go with some crazy stuff since tis the season.
Dream Eater.
So this is Dream Eater. It's a double stout with cinnamon crunch cereal, coffee, vanilla, and milk sugar.
John's like, what is going on with these?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the clean food laws. You can't even have this stuff. Wait till we pull out the Oreo pastry stout. You know.
All right.
Yeah, no, this is like, it's 8%. So it's a pastry stout. So it's, probably pretty sweet. I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
Got the crazy can going on with it.
I like the title, Dream Eater. That's pretty cool. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool can.
Yeah, cool. Almost like a Southwest vibe. But so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it tastes. So.
We like our beers wild, and everything is like, if it's an IPA, it's an Imperial IPA. We're gonna one up you, or an Imperial Stout or whatever, and just
Oh, when we had 400 episodes, you have to find a new beer each week. It gets you start to get pretty obscure.
That's right.
At some point.
And two of them per week.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And I was just looking it up. The October 25th will be our anniversary that'll be starting the 8th year.
Wow.
So
eighth year.
Pretty
8 years in business.
There you go. So
Yeah.
well, let's cheers it up to a good episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Cheers.
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 Let's go.
Now, John, how come John is John, but Bejakovic is with
Bejakovic.
sounds like a Y, right? Should be Jan.
It should be it's a little bit of marketing as well, just kind of internationalize my name. So.
Yes. We usually give the beers 1 to 5 pints. You can use decimal places, whatever. 5 being the best. Where do you put that on a 1 to 5 pint scale?
You mean my beer?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 5. This is a 5. I would drink this every day.
There you go. We don't get a lot of 5s on the show, so that's good.
Very rare.
That's a man who likes knows what he likes. I like it.
Yeah.
Jonathan, what do you got over there for your pumpkin ale?
Pumpkin, it's okay. I'm going to give it a 4.1. That's the rating. It's nothing special.
Cool. All right. I'm going to give this, I don't really taste the cinnamon crunch cereal. So I'm going to have to ding it a few points for that. Definitely taste the coffee. It's got a lot more coffee than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically a coffee stout, but I'll give it a solid 4 point. Give it a 4, solid 4.
Solid 4 even.
Yep.
Good.
Definitely not too sweet. It's only 8%, so it's not like super sweet. It's probably where they messed up.
This one, I didn't even look at the ABV. This one's 10%. So,
all right,
it gets a little credit for that, but the aftertaste on a pumpkin, you're just going to have to, this time of year, you just have to try something pumpkin or Oktoberfest. So
yeah, I'm glad you waited till October. That's good. I was afraid you were going to pull it out in September, and that would just
you can't look at a shelf or walk into a cooler without seeing some kind of orange label.
tis the season for sure. So
exactly.
Well, John, tell us like how you got here. Like, I know we have a mutual friend in Bill Mueller,
Yep.
Who's been on the show several times. But tell us, like, how did you end up in this wild and crazy world of copywriting? Do you consider yourself a copywriter? I mean, or what do you call yourself, and how did you end up here?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I definitely I definitely worked as a copywriter for a good number of years. I had an entirely different career before that. I was working in IT, and then I decided that I didn't want to sit in an office. I heard from somebody that you can write online. I started doing that, and then eventually, after writing some books on Amazon and very niche topics, and that wasn't making me a lot of money, I found out that you can do sales copywriting, and that's making a lot of money, and kind of like where the lucre is.
Yeah.
And then yes, I got into that, and I started writing gradually, and I started kind of scaling up, working with bigger and bigger clients, and getting better and better at what I was doing. And then at some point, I started a daily email newsletter, and it was basically just there to as a sandbox for me to practice things that I wanted to try, and the things that I was learning about. And then eventually that kind of started to take off, and it became a second source of income besides the stuff that I was doing for client work. And now it's kind of transitioned to where I really haven't been doing any client work for the past, I think, couple of years, and it's mainly just been me writing these emails and promoting some stuff on the side, and doing little projects like that.
Living
so that's
the dream.
Kind of yeah, exactly. It's kind of been a switch, and I lucked into this business of having an audience without ever really trying to do it.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's living the dream, man. I think Ben Settle calls that the 10-minute workday or something like that.
Kind of. It's never been 10 minutes, but
no, it's never been 10 minutes, but it's a good hook.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
It's attractive when you say it, but
but everybody knows. I mean, anybody that's tried to write a decent email knows it takes a little bit longer than that. So
yeah.
Plus, then all the, just the loading it, sending it, the business part of it, the admin part of it, all that kind of stuff. But still, pretty good lifestyle, I would imagine overall.
It is. I mean, the big thing is that you still have to have things to sell, right? So writing an email is one thing, and that's important, and that's the bulk of what I do. But ultimately, you need offers to sell, right? You need, create your own offers, create a newsletter, or create courses, or otherwise you need to find other people who have good offers, and then somehow vet those. And so
do some affiliate stuff there for people that you strongly endorse.
Yeah, exactly.
So the book, why did you decide to put together this book? Again, the title, The 10 Commandments of I'm not going to read the whole thing like Sean did, but it's the 10 Commandments of con men, pickup artists, magicians, and door-to-door salesmen. I'll stop there.
Yada.
But I think Sean had stepped away. We were talking before the podcast. So I was down in Tampa this week for a trade show. I went out one evening after a long day of just networking and talking to people, and went out to dinner and actually took the copy of this book and read almost the whole thing from cover to cover. I'm sitting there just, at a local restaurant there, and just, having a glass of wine, a little Shiraz, and reading this book. And it was like really good. I couldn't put it down. It's, some books you can get into. It's like, it's a slow start. But your chapters are so short and concise, and each chapter is a lesson. So there's a lot of good takeaways.
A lot of story in it too.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I was saying before you got on, Jonathan, how it reminded me of Robert Greene's books, because it's got some historical examples and things like that, which I love. So
a lot of movie references, like we're talking Glengarry Glen Ross, and little reference to the classic Jaws movie as well. So
so John, you're obviously a movie buff, because even on your email opt-in page, there's a subtle, not so subtle reference to Princess Bride. So you seem to be a pretty big movie buff. Is that? I find that's pretty common with a lot of copywriters.
I think it is. And I think if you're going to be a good copywriter, I think one of the big things you have to learn is that idea of like creating vision in somebody's mind, right? And I think a lot of that goes back to having that in your own head and seeing things in your own head. And I think that movies are really probably the best training grounds for that. You know, I feel like in the copywriting world, there's so much talking about like story, and people are like, oh, you have to tell the I don't know, hero story, and you have, you know, this multi-step thing, and people are really obsessed with story. And one thing that I learned, which has been very, very effective for me, and which is something I keep telling people, is like, stop thinking necessarily about story as in like you have to have the backstory in this entire arc. Think in like terms of like 2 or 3 snapshots, like kind of like a comic book, you know, like first frame, second frame, third frame. And I feel like that produces actually much better copy. And it's really how people think, and that's really what I think like a lot of effective persuasion turns out to be about. It's kind of just having like 1 or 2 very good pictures in your head. And yeah, there's no better training for that than watching a ton of Hollywood movies.
Yeah, I remember Eugene Schwartz said in a video that used to be more float around the web a little bit. I think he was talking at Phillips Publishing back in the day. But he said you should be watching every blockbuster movie that comes out. Like you should, like every Friday you should be going to the movies, watching whatever the number 1 movie is, and like
or even I would add the cult classics too, because some of them don't start out as blockbusters, but they end up being like.
Now you probably today you'd say make sure you're watching the top Netflix show. Make sure you're watching, because whatever's going on in the zeitgeist of the consumer mind, you want to be tapped into that. Like, those references, especially in email copy, I think those references of what's current really, really help and make you more human, make you more approachable. Like, I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, I mean, when I started out email copywriting, I think there was a big kind of like uncertainty in my mind, because I would see, you know, the classic copywriting advice is tell people what's in it for them, right? And be like, okay, well, give them the benefit and so on. And then you would see people like, you know, who were writing effective emails, whether in the email copywriting world or just people who had personal lists and who were making a lot of money from their email list. And they would have subject lines that were all about them, that had 0 implied benefit and so on. I was kind of like, couldn't really get into my head of like what's going on, you know? And I think that, a big part of being effective in email is, you know, having that personal connection with people. And the big part of how you do that is sharing your own ideas, tastes, preferences, stories. And when you get to that point where people are reading and they feel like they know you, then you can put all sorts of stuff in the subject line, and it actually works better than maybe putting a hard benefit in the subject line, you know? And so
I mean, like, if you example just came to mind. If you were just hanging out with a friend, or you know, you were texting a friend, you wouldn't text them and be like, hey, there's this cool thing for you. You're probably going to say something, man, you'll never believe what just happened to me. Right. Like it's about you, but because they're a friend and they know you, they want to know that. So it is about them in a way, but like, I think people overdo the what's in it for them. You know, that first person perspective is really powerful. And I think it's because we all go through a lot of the same stuff. So if they can identify with you, it's kind of about them, because they can see themselves in your stories.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. I think it's something that I also, because I'm like, I don't know, I'm a little bit slow to learn things, but I like, at some point somebody pointed out that, you know, which personal stories do you choose to tell people? And it's the personal stories about yourself where people can identify with the role that you're playing in that story, right? And so it's exactly this, where it's sort of your personal story and you're sharing that, but you're really telling it so that people can put themselves into that place. And if you're telling people a story where they can't put themselves into that place, then that's a story that you really shouldn't be telling, you know, even if it's maybe a great story, or even if it builds you up, that is probably not the kind of thing that people really want to hear.
Yeah. There's a quote, and I've said it before on the show, and I can't remember who said it, but it's that which is most personal is most universal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when
I've heard
comics are
Rick
great at
Shepherd
that.
say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Comics do that really well. They pick out the little tiny nuances of life that you think are just you, and you find out that it's everybody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the stuff that really connects with people in a big way. Well, let's talk about some of your commandments. We're not going to go through all 10. But if you had to pick maybe your top 3, unless you want to give some background on the book first, why you chose it and how you came up with that
Sure.
title.
Yeah. So the background on the book is that it's a story in itself, in the sense that I don't know how much you guys know James Altucher. So he's this internet personality.
Yeah.
He has a podcast, and
Mhm.
he doesn't really write anymore. I think he got burned out on writing, but then he used to write, and he used to write interesting stuff. And one of his ideas was, which I think he got from, I forget what the guy's name is. Oh, Stephen Pressfield. It's this guy who wrote that, The Legend of Bagger Vance. And apparently Stephen Pressfield had a book which was all about like, oh, if you want to write stuff that gets into people's heads, then take an existing religious framework or concept and marry that to your own topic, right? And I guess The Legend of Bagger Vance, I've never read it, but I think it's basically that. It's about golf, and it's combining that with the Bhagavad Gita, like the Indian religious text, right? And somehow taking the ideas and structure of the religious text and marrying that to golf.
I did not realize that's
Steve.
what
Yeah.
that was.
You guys there? You cut
Steve
off.
Pressfield, is that he wrote the War? Is that the War of Art guy?
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys there? Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Uh-oh.
Might be a buffer.
Yeah. Hey, you guys there?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're here.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I don't know. You are cutting in and out for me, so I'm not sure if it's something on my end or what's happening here. How are we doing now?
We're good.
Yeah, we're good. We can hear you pretty clearly. Maybe on your end. How about now?
Test. Can you hear us?
So basically what's happening on my end is it seems like it's connecting and disconnecting repeatedly, and I can hear you very badly and at a distance, but now I don't know. Sean, I can see you now.
Are you on a Wi-Fi connection?
I am. I'm my local home Wi-Fi, and it seems fine. But now I can hear you perfectly. And Sean,
Okay.
I can see you. Jonathan, I cannot see you, but I could hear you for a second.
Okay.
So, I don't know.
Oh, seem to be back. We'll edit that in.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're hearing us now? Maybe.
Should I try to disconnect and connect again?
Yeah,
you can try logging back off and logging back in if that helps. In the meantime, Sean and I will just tear your book apart while you're off the air.
Okay.
Yeah, try logging back off and logging back in. There you go. So while he's trying to get his thing figured out, Sean, is there anything?
Europeans, man. You can't trust Europeans. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There he goes. Anything from the book that stood out to you that kind of captured your attention?
I'm not seeing his video. Hold on. Let's get him back in here. Oh, disappeared again.
Disappeared. Yeah.
So must be on his end. There he is.
Hey, are better now?
Hey,
there we go. You're back.
Better?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened. It basically just
right.
started kind of blipping out and in and out. Yeah.
We know everything's older in Europe, so you know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like these underwater.
You guys still
cables.
use dial up there and
back
in the old country?
I don't think we like doing the tin can thing, but yeah.
Got some giant eel laying on the trans cable or something.
I think must have been. But yeah, weird thing. Anyhow, back to the book. So yeah, James Altucher had this idea, which he got from somebody else, which is like, okay, take a religious idea and connect it to whatever topic you're writing about. And actually, I wrote a predecessor book to this, which was called 10 Commandments of A-List Copywriters. And I managed to write that book very quickly in a month because I knew the topic, and it was like, okay, let me just pick 10 famous copywriters and let me write a quick commandment for them and have a few illustrations. And that book's been very, very useful for me. Like, it's sitting there on Amazon, people buy it occasionally, people get onto my email list. And so at some point, because I keep writing daily emails and I keep writing about stuff that interests me, I kind of had the idea that, there's a lot of connections between these different fields, right? And I wasn't exactly sure what the fields were, but I knew that, for example, I was reading a book about stage magic, and I heard a talk given by a negotiation coach, Jim Camp. And basically they talked about kind of the same idea, but in two completely different fields, but it was the same bit of human psychology. And I said, okay, I feel like I've come across this over and over, where like there's something in copywriting, clearly copywriting and sales, there's a lot of overlap, but then copywriting and, I don't know, pickup, right? Or copywriting and stand-up comedy. And there were all of these things. And so I tried to put a version 2 of the book out, and I said, okay, let me do 10 commandments, 10 disciplines, and let me have a few illustrations for each discipline. And then I think, like I was telling Jonathan, the book took forever to write because basically I wanted to make sure that all of the ideas were solid, but also that all of the examples that I had were kind of sexy, the same kind of quality that I might want to put into a sales letter, of not just, okay, here's a story that everybody's heard. And if it couldn't open up a sales letter, I didn't basically want to put it into the book. And that meant that the book took, considering how short it is, it took me a long time to write. So.
I think that's a great tip. I don't want to walk past, because I'm working on a long promo right now in the financial space. And that nuance of finding a good story and a good story that people haven't really heard before. I think motivational speakers do this terribly. They all use the same stories over and over and over to where they're just kind of cliche. They don't land anymore. I mean, there's, half the audience has heard it before. So I do think that's really important to find those, to dig a little deeper in history or wherever, and do your sleuthing to find better stories.
Yeah.
Not even better, but like just not as common.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel that you either have to have a better story or you have to be a better storyteller. I think most people are not. I mean, I feel like being a really good storyteller where you can somehow squeeze juice out of like a really dry story. There are people who can do that, but that's a real skill. And I feel like even the people who call themselves expert storytellers usually can't do it. Whereas I feel like just the grunt work of sitting and sifting through, research material and being like, well, does this stimulate me? Does this like get me excited? Am I curious about this? And just flipping through page after page of research and being like, okay, eventually I'm going to find something good. And just doing that until you find something that's good enough. Because I think again, the advice to tell stories has been given so much that a lot of people go up on stage, or they write a blog post, or they write their own email, and they're telling a story that everybody's heard in a not particularly good way. And there's no magic in telling a bad story, right? So I feel like I'm very ready to skip lots of stories that I hear. And this idea of being wired for story doesn't hold if everybody's telling boring stories. I just want to skip all of them.
So that's a good point, because you reference movies a lot in the book. So what are some ways that stories are told in movies that really capture our attention, engage? Because you use some examples in the book of like, even the classic Jaws movie back in, what was it, the late 70s, where they didn't have all the CGI and all this stuff, but they had subpar special effects probably compared to today, but yet it was, that was a crazy, that movie was just epic. you know.
Yep.
But it played on people's psychology, you know, the psychology of anticipation, knowing that you don't always have to show something in order to build anticipation, right? If I'm putting that correctly, you don't have to show like the villain, or you don't have to show the monster directly in order to build that anticipation or the fear that people have, and that, you know, draws them in. So there's a psychology behind that, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think you can tell familiar stories, but you have to find something within them that's new. And oftentimes, for me, I feel like the simplest or the most reliable way to find something new in an existing story is to zoom in, right?
Mhm.
And to pick out something that maybe people simply haven't seen before, right? Another way would be to maybe zoom out and to find some sort of a pattern that, again, people haven't really necessarily spotted.
Right.
So I think, like, you know, you mentioned Glengarry Glen Ross, and in the book I referenced
One of my favorite movies.
Right? Yeah, so I feel like all of us who are like into persuasion definitely like that movie. So yeah, there's the famous scene, right? There's the famous always be closing scene, and everybody's seen that, everybody knows it. If you've watched the movie, you've seen it. If you haven't watched the movie, you've probably seen it. I use that scene to illustrate a point in the book, but I use it in a completely different way. So I think it's like, rather than talking about the importance of closing or whatever the typical way of using that story is, or even focusing on the character of, you know, Alec Baldwin or whatever he's doing or whatever he's saying, I pick out something that probably most people would gloss over. It's a specific line that's kind of in the middle of that, and I use that to illustrate the idea of like, oh, you always have to give people a reason why, right?
Yeah.
And I think that pulling that tiny detail out of that story makes the story feel kind of new, even if you've maybe heard the story before, because somehow I'm giving you a new takeaway out of that. And I think for the Jaws chapter, I mean, I feel like, again, people know what Jaws is about, and maybe they've seen it, or in any case, okay, what is there really to know about Jaws? It's like, okay, it's a movie about a shark that eats people, and it's scary, and the shark is underwater. And so there, it's kind of the opposite thing. So rather than zooming in, kind of zoom out, and I look at the pattern of the movie, how the movie develops over the course of the first 40 minutes. And for me, for example, I realized how much that, at one point I was looking at a sales letter by John Ford, and he was selling, I don't know, it was called Apollo Energy. It was like a typical financial promo, right? And it was this thing of, you don't know what Apollo Energy is. And the way that the John Ford sales letter is structured, to my mind, is exactly kind of how Jaws the movie is structured, because it's like he keeps getting closer and closer and closer to telling you what Apollo Energy is, and then as soon as you think like, all right, finally I'm going to get it, he's like, and it's the most, you know, so first he's about to tell you what it is, but then he stops and he tells you all the people who are into Apollo Energy, and then as soon as he gets there, he stops and he tells you, well, what Apollo Energy is not. And it just keeps building up in this way, and then dropping again, and building up in this way, and dropping again. And that's, for me, exactly how Jaws the movie is structured, is this kind of like, you keep getting to expecting you're going to see a shark attack, but no, it's a false alarm. Or you keep expecting that this time you're going to see it, but no, something else happens. And it happens over and over very reliably.
The anticipation, it builds. And then there's no substitute for like what goes on in the minds of your audience, because, you know, in their mind, you know, something big is about to take place.
Well, you also get invested because now you've sunk time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the sunk fallacy cost, right? I mean, the sunk cost fallacy. Like, well, I've already been watching this, you know, movie for 20 minutes, and now it's 30 minutes. Now it's same with the sales letter. You know, now it's a sales letter. Well, I've been watching this video sales letter for 15 minutes. Surely he's going to tell me in the next 5. I'll give you 5 more minutes. And then one more open loop, one more, you know, false close. But yeah, that's classic in financial copywriting, which is where I got my start. And I'm back in there again. Is like, that's just the way we write those. Like it's very, very much a hidden, and a really good, you'll never know what it is until you buy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, and that's something you don't see a lot in other copywriting niches, just because of the nature of financial, like, if you give people the ticker symbol, then why do they need to buy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of have to keep it hidden. You give them similar stuff. This is a really good stock in the industry, but there's one better,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get it free when you join our membership.
Yep.
So yeah, there's so many different things going on with the time invested, the anticipation, the open loops, like all that stuff is pretty. So I'm curious, John, like how do you, let's say you're looking at a story or you're writing an email or a promotion. Do you like know what you're looking for and you go research and you try to find it? Or do you just you're just watching something, or you're just reading something because you're an avid reader or watcher, and when it shows up, you're like, ooh, I need to clip that and save it for something. I don't know what it is yet. Like, how does your process work?
It's almost entirely the second one. So
Okay.
I have journals that are hundreds of pages long, and I'm just basically going through. I'm reading. I've got the New Yorker here. I'm reading books. I'm watching movies, stuff online, and whenever I see something that catches my attention, I write it down. I think like Paris Lampropoulos, he put on this training back in 2018, and he said he keeps this didn't know that list, and basically it's like, okay, you put a little factoids onto this list, and if you've been doing that for a while, you get to a point of like everything that surprises you is almost guaranteed to be surprising and new to your audience, because you've been consciously researching stuff and taking note of what's new to you. And I kind of took that to heart, and I really started noting down every cool marketing idea, noting down every cool illustration, even if I had no idea of what I was going to use it for. And I find that like if I sit down to write an email and I'm like, all right, I got to do something clever, and I have to make a point, and I have to have a good illustration for that point. Like I'm not that clever, and I'm not that creative, right? And instead, I just outsource all of this stuff to all the previous work I've done and all the research that I've done, and I go back in there, and a lot of the work for this book was taking a huge amount of research and then somehow organizing it in this matrix where the right story would fit into the right place, and just making sure that it was good enough. So I couldn't, again, like I wrote an earlier book, the one about A-list copywriters, and that was more in my head, and even there, okay, I could just fill in stuff because it was really stuff that I knew very, very well. Yeah. But for this book, I just did a ton of research, and in the end, it still happened that I kind of knew that I needed a certain kind of story, and then I went out and I hunted for that story, but that was the minority. And most of the stuff was I was reading something or I was watching something, and just something caught my eye, and it was really surprising and cool. And I was like, okay, I could feel internally that I get turned on by this. And I said, okay, I don't know where this is going to go, but I need to write it down, right? I mean, I think I remember an example. So one of the things I have in the book is Patrice O'Neill, the stand-up comedian. And he has this routine, which is frankly a racist routine, and that's how I have it in the book. So Patrice was black. He basically goes off on like Indian people. And I just remember watching that, and my jaw was kind of on the floor of like, I can't believe he's saying this. I can't believe he's saying it in a way that wins the audience over, right? And then I thought about what he's doing, and I said, okay, like this has got to be I know what he's doing. I understand the technique. This has got to go in the book, right? And that's one of the things that went in there.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you keep track of this. So if you've got this journal, it's hundreds of pages, handwritten, how do you find stuff when you need it?
It's not handwritten. It is,
okay.
It's a text file, so that makes it a little bit better. But beyond that, it's not a great system in the sense of like, it still requires like grunt work of me being like, all right, now I have hundreds of pages, and I have to go basically page by page and remind myself of what I've written and see if something jolts in my head now, or maybe that hole I have in chapter 4 I can fill with something that I'm going to find in the journal. But again, it took me a long time to write this book, and I think part of the reason is that I don't have a better journaling system besides just putting things on top of each other and then being like, like I gotta do
Yeah.
something with this, right? So,
Yeah, I think that's a big challenge for a lot of writers. I went to a John Maxwell conference one time, and he writes a lot. Well, he outlines a lot of books. He's got a ghostwriter that does all his writing.
Yeah.
But the way he does it, he takes 4x6 cards, and whenever he's reading, he has one of those those old blue and white pens that have the 3 colors on the back of it.
Yeah.
He has one of that's the only pen he'll use, and each color means a different thing, a quote, a statistic, or something like that. And he'll write these on the cards, and he'll create it under a subject, and he files it away. And his whole office just had these massive file cabinets, and so whenever he needed something, he knew where to find it. He's been doing that for 25 years.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, I keep a notes tab in my phone of different
same for me. Evernote
phrases that I've heard that like really caught my attention, whether it's a line in a song or like whatever movie title, something I see while I'm out. Because we always have our phone with us. So I learned that from like Taylor Swift. I think I heard her on an interview one time say that's how she writes so many songs. She just writes all these one-liners.
Yeah.
And then on songwriting day, she just pulls that up and goes after it. So
yeah, exactly. I feel like that's the secret. I mean, it's never really the 10-minute workday, but I feel like I can oftentimes have an idea for, let's say, an email based on some interesting fact that I wrote or heard or saw somewhere. And in my phone, I can have kind of the outline for the email in 15, 20 seconds of just 3-4 sentences that I want to say, or 3-4 phrases. And I know what that means. Now, writing that out is still going to take minimum 15 or 20 minutes and maybe longer.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm willing to do that secretarial work of basically sitting there and like typing out what somebody wrote for me if I don't have to do the writing. Like if like the writing has basically been done in that moment of like inspiration, I'm like, okay, great. Now when it's time to officially work, then I sit down and I'm like, okay, I can craft my way through making this into a fully formed, normal, grammatically written sentence and an email. But that initial cool idea of what makes something work, I really don't want to sit down and have to do that, because that's the hard work.
Yeah, the best, and I think I don't know if the best things come, but it's surprising if you'll just let go and just go for a walk or just go about your day, like how many good ideas come through that process. And it's hard to trust that, because a lot of us, especially our age, I think we're probably a little older than you are, John, but like, work had a very specific, you're at a desk, you're at a place, that's work, right? But when you're in the creative realm, as long as you can capture the idea, I mean, you can be just about anywhere and let that stuff bubble up. And I think people underestimate the need for that. Like you need to get away from your desk to really come up with the best ideas.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, John. Jonathan's mentioned a couple of things, different chapters. He's like, so these are actually the 10 commandments. So not really chapters, they're commandments. Like, what's your favorite? You got done writing the book. You look back, like, I don't know if you have them memorized or not, but like, what would you say your favorite commandment is?
I mean, in favorite in terms of like a cool commandment, I feel like is the one about agreeing and amplifying, because, okay, I feel like that's counterintuitive and it points to a deep psychological truth about, these like mental frames. So I think that's a cool commandment, just because it's maybe, depending on who you are and where you're coming from, it might be new to you. But in terms of actually what I think is the most important commandment, it's the first one, right? Which is about making people feel okay, which is the Jim Camp term. And, I quote Robert Collier in there, and, I feel like nobody really talks about this, but, Robert Collier's wrote this in a book 100 years ago, and basically saying that what is the most effective sales appeal? And it's not necessarily self-interest in the way that we think about it, right? It's not necessarily, making money. It's not even saving money or anything like that. What he said is that it's vanity, and vanity in the sense of basically being being a person of better standing, being somehow more seen better by others,
Yep.
being able to perceive yourself better, and I feel like this is a really important fundamental truth that goes beyond copywriting, and I think it's a life truth, right? And if you want to do well with people in general, you make them feel good about themselves, right?
And how do you make them feel good? Because I want to latch onto that with reference to the Robert Collier book, because you highlight that book and you highlight some lessons from that, and one of them is it reminded me, because I have that. It's a fantastic read, and anybody that's into marketing, copywriting should have that book on their shelf. But one of the reminders that you had in your book was that, can you do me a favor, right? Because, ultimately sometimes people have the idea that asking for a favor kind of burdens other people. But in fact, what it does is when you ask people to do you a favor, it gives them purpose and power, so to speak.
Yep.
So I want you to talk about that, because that's a really important part of persuasion and something that you highlight in this book.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, you could say that asking somebody to do you a favor is giving them a gift, right? And it's giving them the gift of being important, being useful, having power, like you say, where they can help you out, acknowledgement that they, you need them, and that you're in this kind of dependent position. And we, all of these things can be misused. And I feel like we can all, if you do this, if you come at it from a place where it's very clearly manipulative, I think people can sometimes sense that you're asking for a favor as a way of somehow weaseling your way into people's good graces. But I think normally, if you're like asking for a favor and you're genuine about it, and even if you're doing it partly as a way of knowing that people will like you better, still lots of times works brilliantly, right? And just basically saying to people, look, I'm in this position. You could help me out because of your unique knowledge, experience, characteristics, and lots of times this opens magic doors that could not be opened in any other way.
Yeah, there's a lesson, and it reminded me, like, whenever I go into a meeting, like sometimes I'll have people that will offer me like a bottle of water or a coffee or something like that when I go into an in-person, person-person meeting. And I always accept, not because I want water or I want coffee, but because I want them to feel empowered, like, in this meeting, like they're doing something for me. Right. So, that's a good lesson there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great policy.
I did something similar when I used to be in home sales, sit at the kitchen table. This was back late 90s, pre-internet stuff, or before the internet was popular anyway. We'd go into these people's houses, and the first thing we were told to do is like ask for something to drink.
Yeah.
So you sit down at the kitchen table, you make sure everybody's in the right spot. You tell them where to sit, but then you say, hey, can I, man, I've been driving for a while. Can I get a glass of water?
Yeah.
And, would it be okay? Could you do me a favor? Can I get a glass of water? Like that kind of stuff, like works. And I noticed as I was reading that chapter, John, I was noticing that I was like, he started the book that way.
Yeah.
And your first sentence in the book is, I need your help.
Yeah.
Yep.
So as soon as you said that one is my favorite or my, the most useful, I realized, I believe that because that's how you started your book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
you didn't say I need a favor, but you said I need your help, which is kind of the same thing. Just a different way of saying it. So, and I know that's been a successful, and that's been a successful subject line I've seen over the years too.
Yeah, I found this in my own email list. Like, I think that's how I kind of proved this to myself, because what I like to kind of take persuasion ideas and see to what extent I can apply them in emails.
Yep.
But I did this in an email, and I did it kind of tongue in cheek, because basically I described what the importance is of asking for a favor, and within that email I told the story, and then I asked for people for their feedback of like, oh, what do you think? Should I include this in a future book? Like, give me your feedback. And I got a huge amount of response, from people basically being like, oh, here's what I think, and by the way, I love your emails and so on. So it worked in a very good way. But yeah, it's I do this all the time now. And I mean, again, I'm not trying to do it as a manipulative tactic, like just to mess with people, but I've realized that it's so easy to get into a position of being like, oh, I'm kind of like the expert, or I should play the expert, and I should have the answers, and I should know what to do. And I keep reminding myself, if I have an audience, I should ask people for help and for advice. And not only do people actually have brilliant help and advice that I could never really come up with on my own, but it just builds that much stronger of a relationship with people, because exactly of the steps that we're talking about, that people like doing favors for others because it makes them feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
So what was the most surprising commandment that you, when you found these 10, like which one was the most like kind of either counterintuitive or was kind of like, really, that surprised you that worked and that was so common?
I mean, I wouldn't say that necessarily surprised. I mean, okay, to be honest, I feel like anybody who reads this book, I tried to make the book very interesting and very valuable. But most of these commandments, if you read them, like, wind up being, let's say, I wouldn't say common knowledge, but you can recognize that there is, psychology there that you recognize. So there's no real, arcane wizard-like phrase that is going to open doors that you've never ever heard of, right? So all of this stuff, in a way, sounds familiar. But I'll say that there's a chapter in which I talk about kind of like having confidence, right? And I feel like that chapter, I'm happy I put that chapter in, because I think it is important. And I think it's like, it is a common element in a lot of these disciplines about like, okay, how does a certain amount of like confidence or confident presentation, how does that actually matter, or what does that look like? And I'm happy with how that chapter came out, because I feel like telling people to be confident is, I feel like, horrible advice, right? And it's kind of like completely impractical. And it's like, if I knew how to be confident, I'd be confident. So why are you telling me to be confident? Because I can't, if I were confident, I wouldn't need the advice. And if I'm getting the advice, that means I can't put it to use. But I feel like I managed to find some finer distinctions there in terms of like, what does it actually mean to have confidence, and which points specifically you need to have confidence, and what is actually having or appearing to have confidence, what does it translate to? And for me, that was useful, because I feel like I learned some stuff writing that chapter that I've been able to apply. And so I think specifically what comes to mind is that there's a door-to-door salesman who wrote a book, and he basically talked about, and this comes up in different disciplines as well, that there is, I think he called them transition moments. I've heard them described as leaps of faith. And it's basically, if you have any kind of long-term episode of influence, right? Whether that's a sales message, whether that's a seduction, whether that's even maybe a movie or something like that. Not everything during that episode, during that 1 hour, 5 hours, 7 hours, however long it is, not everything counts the same way, right? So there are moments when your audience is more or less on board, and you can relax, and they're relaxed, and they're not really going anywhere. But then there are critical moments, and during those critical moments, you need to have confidence, right? And what specifically does confidence mean? And sometimes it just means, basically not pausing for approval and just kind of charging on.
That's exactly what I was thinking of when you said that. I was flashing back to those same kitchen table moments. There's always a time at the end where you got to get out the order form. You got to ask for the business. And the way we would do it is we would just you have the order form or the application like right there in your briefcase where you can grab it without looking at it. It's pre-positioned, so you know exactly where it is. You go through your pitch and you pull it out and you say, "So, John, how do you want your name to appear on the contract? Is it John? Is that right? Or do you want Jonathan?" No, John's fine. Great. If they don't stop you, you keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you ask that question, you ask it confidently. They're like, "Well, wait, I got a couple more questions," and you're like, "Oh yeah, sure. What? Yeah, what's up?" But if you just sit there and wait for them to say, "Hey, can we fill out the application now?" Like,
they're
never going to do that.
Or even if you hesitate and you're like, "Well, I know you guys maybe aren't ready, but like, what if I pulled out my contract now? Would you be okay with that?" And as soon as they see that hesitation in you, they feel that hesitation themselves. I feel like that's one of the things that I didn't really talk about in the book, but I think it's absolutely true of how much we mirror each other, right? And how
and that is what makes a con man successful.
I
mean, it's confidence, man, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I think this is another David Mamet thing, where David Mamet, the guy behind Glengarry Glen Ross, he had another movie about con men, and in that movie, he has the main character who's played by Joe Mantegna. He explains to somebody who's not a con man what the essence of the thing is, and he's like, "Oh, it's a confidence game." And he's the con man. He says, "And why? Because you give me your confidence? No, because I give you mine," right? And it kind of goes back to that same idea of asking for a favor, right? So I think it's like basically the same idea. Like, yeah, I give you my confidence by asking you for a favor, and therefore you trust me more, and you're much more relaxed in my company.
What was that movie?
It was called House of Cards.
Oh, that was a show, wasn't it?
It was called, maybe I'm wrong, House of Games. You're absolutely right. House of Games.
Oh, okay. House of Games.
Yeah. House of Games.
Yeah. House of Cards is different.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's another good That's a good show, though, by the way.
Yeah, it is a good show. Yeah. Cool. Well, we're about an hour, John. So anything else you want to say about the book, or just about any wisdom, life in general, that you want to share?
I don't know. Yeah, I would say, I mean, yeah, just in terms of the copywriting, I feel like, again, going back to the idea of dig up your research and do that work, which is almost like monkey work. But I find that like I feel like a lot of people who are into copywriting really they have like a brain that goes in a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
And it's like easy to get distracted and easy to get sucked into interesting stories or go down rabbit holes. And I find like I found that both when I was doing client work and now that I'm doing my own emails and writing these books, like that's become my job. And it's very nice to be able to allow myself to be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to follow some stupid Reddit thread, or I'm going to watch a bunch of YouTube videos. I'm going to read some interesting article that popped up. But then this is kind of like the price that I pay is like, okay, now that I've wasted all of this time following curious threads, I have to tie it up somehow. And that's when you say, okay, well, I'm going to put this into a sales letter, or I'm going to write a bunch of emails based on that, or I'll put it together into a book. So I don't know. I'm kind of happy to be in that business.
Are you a trained hypnotist? Would you have you gone through training on hypnosis?
I'm not. I tried doing self-hypnosis at some point, but I've never been to like a hypnotist, and I don't know how it would be, whether I would be easily hypnotized.
But we do have to ask you about AI before you leave.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Where do you stand on that? Do you use it? Do you not use it?
I use it all the time, but just basically for me, it's become like a replacement for Google. Like I'm just doing a lot of research. I was listening to a podcast recently, and they talked about a study that they did where they got like two groups of people to use AI, and to one group they said, oh, use it to be more productive, and to the other group they said, oh, use this to like get rid of the parts of your job that you hate. And the people who were told to be more productive, they basically did nothing with AI. And the people who were told to eliminate the parts of their job that they hate they actually used it in creative ways and they made their job better.
Yeah.
And I realized that like I kind of like I've lucked into a place where like there's really not any part of what I do that I hate. Like I pretty much like what I do and I fool
Mhm.
around and I'm lucky in that way.
Yeah.
And so like
So there's no reason to give way to
yeah,
to hand it over to
exactly.
AI, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
except for
And
maybe research purposes, right? Like you said, you substitute it for Google.
I substituted for Google. I feel like it's a great first step
Yeah.
of being like, okay, I wouldn't trust
Absolutely.
it to be like, oh yeah, just do all my research for me, but to
Right.
do the same kind of monkey work that I would do before, basically, okay, I'm going to have to sift through 20 pages of Google and open up a bunch of these links and just try to find something on the page and then read.
Yeah.
I think it does that great and it saves me a lot of time there. But in terms of writing, in terms of actually reading stuff in detail and taking notes, I like doing all of that stuff. I think it's important for me to have like ideas, and I think it comes through in what I write. So that's my stance on it.
Yeah, I'm similar. Like if I'm looking for stories or things like that, kind of like we've talked about, I'll ask ChatGPT or whatever. I said, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm looking for some obscure but cool stories.
Mm-hmm.
Give me 5 or 6 historical examples, and it'll pull up some stuff. And I'll say, make sure they're not overly used, that kind of stuff. And it'll give me 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, and I'll pick the 2 that look most interesting. And I was like, give me 5 books on each that would tell me more about this.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I go look for the books, and then I do a deep dive, and that saves hours right there. Like just being able to narrow down. It's like having a librarian that knows your books, right? It's like, oh yeah, you're looking for this in the European history section. Go there. Like there's 3 or 4 books you might want to look at. But then you got to do the grunt work, like you said, because it could be that one line, that AI skips over and or summarizes, but the way the original author said it, has that copy weight, that gut punch that AI just doesn't understand at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I always remember the John Colton story of like, interviewing some dude for days, right? And then at the end of that, it was like, oh yeah, we have the one-legged golfer, and like that's how we got the thing. And it became this famous headline and the famous story and big success. And it came after, some almost like a slip up on day 3 of being interviewed, right? And I feel like if you're looking at the whole bulk of the research and the content that the two had exchanged, John and whoever the client was, I think if you were looking for a Phantom or a ChatGPT summary of that line probably wouldn't appear. But but having somebody who's in tune to being like, okay, that is the angle, right? And immediately you go on.
You can. I think that's a gift that really good copywriters have, is they can hear those things when they hear them, they know they just heard good copy. And I don't think everybody can do that. James Patterson called it the golden gut. Like you just feel it and hear it instantly. It like lights up in 3D lights. Like you just know, like, oh, that's a good line. I don't know where I'm going to use it yet. But like that's good, or that's a headline, or that's something. That's cool. That's good. I'm glad you haven't been sucked too far into the matrix with AI yet. So that's good to know there's people out there.
Yeah, I love some of your old school references to Claude Hopkins too, by the way, in the book. Those are really good lessons on listening and sometimes, paying attention, in the market space as to, what some companies consider everyday. This is the everyday thing that we do. Sometimes there's ways to pick apart that or highlight that and showcase it to your advantage. Just like the old Schlitz, the Schlitz, what is it? Schlitz beer? Schlitz beer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, John, where can people find out more about you? I already know the answer, but you tell the people.
So for anybody who doesn't know, so basically I write a daily email newsletter, and if you take my last name and you put .com after it, so bejakovic.com, then you get to that beautiful page, and then you can opt in to get my daily emails. If you really, really don't want to give me your email address, you can just put /blog, and you can see an archive of literally thousands of emails. So I think I've been writing is almost as long as you guys have been doing the podcast. So since sometime in
Awesome.
2018.
2018.
Wow.
And so I have literally thousands of emails up there, and yeah, that's where you can find more about me.
Very cool. Well, I just signed up today.
Yeah.
Like I said, I should have done it last week once we knew you were booked, but I forgot.
Yeah.
I was too busy reading the book. So
Yeah,
I'm
same here.
Oh, nice.
You're a good writer.
Yeah.
By the
Thank
way,
you.
I'm gonna
Thank you.
grab your
I
other
used
books that you mentioned on Amazon.
I used a lot of the tricks that I write about in the book, so that was kind of one of
as you should.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you got your own little, case study. And do you ever ghostwrite or anything for anybody?
I have not, although I've really been thinking about that in terms of I would not really want to take an entirely ghostwrite an entire book for somebody. But I was thinking about how I kind of put together this book based on a lot of previous content that I had. And I feel like there are people out there with a ton of good content and no book. And I feel like I could do a good job putting that into a big
Framework.
idea, or exactly. And finding the best content that they already have and working that into a book.
Yeah.
So that's something I've been thinking about doing.
Yeah. Creating a framework and kind of connecting the dots so that it makes sense as a body of work. Yeah. I think that's a valuable, I mean, I'm good. That's one of the things I love to do. I see those like everywhere, like the connecting the ideas, and I thought everybody does that, but apparently not. So
definitely not. Yeah.
So there's guys like you that understand ones and zeros too, and code and all that stuff. And like, I don't understand that. So well, John, it's been good having you on. I know it's getting late there. So you probably got to hit the clubs. So I know you got to.
Yeah, exactly. Time to hit the bed.
Yeah.
All right.
Party bus.
Head down to Costa Brava, for some.
I might do that. It's very nice. It's still nice weather here, and I might do that over the weekend.
Yeah, it's
all
a
right.
beautiful area. John, thank you so much. We're going to send you to the green room for about 30 seconds. Sean and I are going to close out the podcast. So if you would just hold tight, we'll talk to you on the back end.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. That was good.
Good stuff.
Great book.
Yeah.
Again, he sent us a copy. This is people can order it on Amazon, right?
Yeah, that's where he sent it from. So yeah.
Okay. So what we'll do is provide the Amazon link on episode 407 of the podcast, so people can order it. Fantastic read. Like I said, very few books do I read from cover to cover, but this is one that easy to read and it's really engaging. Good stuff. I'm going to order John's other books by the way too, while we're talking, but good stuff, man.
Good stuff.
Some great lessons.
Our guests bring it, man.
Always.
I'm glad Bill referred him over. So otherwise we would have had to make up stuff to talk about. So
yeah, fantastic lesson on how to title a book too, by the way.
Yeah.
10 Commandments. I love that. So yeah, check him out. This is episode 407. You can check us out over at persuasionbythepint.com. You can find all of our podcasts, 407 episodes. As Sean mentioned earlier, we're about to hit our 8-year anniversary. Golly, it's hard to believe. We've been on this for
October
25th
of 2025 will be 8 years.
8 years. There's no podcaster out there that does what we do that can say that. So we've been doing this for a long time, and happy to do this every week. Happy to bring this content, these guests to you every week. So check us out, persuasionbythepint.com. You can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Give us a search. Leave us 5-star rating as we try to do some of our beers, but not very often. Sean, it's been fun, man. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.